Hello, I'm Susie Cooper. I'm going to examine Mike's shoulder joint today. I'm going to be examining the right shoulder joint. Hello Mike, how are you today?
Morning. Good.
Are you well? Have you got any pain in your shoulder?
No.
So Mike's well. He has no pain in his shoulder, which is excellent. And he's not, as far as I'm aware, had any pathologies of his shoulder before. But we're going to have a look at the shoulders. Obviously, I'm going to examine the right, but one would at all times compare with the left. So examining him today, he's fairly symmetrical, examining him. I'm looking at his clavicles, I'm looking at the shoulders. Is there any laxity, is there any dipping down? I'm looking at the musculature around here, muscles of the arm, and in particular, obviously, 50% of the examination of the shoulder is going to be from behind. We're looking at the scapulae, we're going to be looking for the alignment, is there symmetry? I'm looking at the neck as well and the head and his general posture as he's sitting there. That looks good at the moment. So I'm now going to ask him to move. I'm going to feel his joints first. I'm going to feel along the clavicle. Tell me if there's any pain at all there, Mike. And there's no steps suggesting a fracture at all, previous fracture to the clavicle. Feeling in the acromioclavicular joint. And feeling it along the posterior part of the scapula, superior border, medial border, and actually comparing it to the left-hand side. Good. I'm now going to have a look at the neck. Is there any tenderness at all in your neck? I'm going to palpate along the cervical spine. That looks good. I'm now going to ask Mike to move. I want to see the range of movement in his shoulder and his neck. We'll start with the neck, actually. So if I can ask you to put your chin onto your chest, please, Mike, and then head up again and look up as far as you can to the ceiling and down again, and then to the right ear onto your shoulder and your left ear onto that shoulder. He's a little bit stiff in his lateral flexion. Not uncommon at about this age, but it could be a little less stiff than it is. And then if I can ask you to look towards the wall on the left and the same to the right. So that's not a bad range of movement there. Now I'm going to ask him to move his shoulder joints, ask him to move his arms. And we look at the shoulder movement from anteriorly and posteriorly. So if I ask you to bring your arms up as high as you can, so that's good, and down again. I'm going to do this again posteriorly, and then right out to the side for as high as you can, and then bring your arms back down slowly. If you can bring them down nice and slowly. By bringing them down slowly at this point, I'm also testing to see if his rotator cuff is actually intact, as it would be very difficult for him to be able to do that slowly for me if there was trauma to particularly the supraspinatus. So the arc did not appear to be painful at all there when you did that. So the arc was painless and full. Now I'm going to ask him to bring his both arms out into external rotation, high up as you can with your elbows, and internal rotation. So he's got a good range, and none of that's painful, is it, Mike? Right. Now I'm going to do that again, looking behind at his scapulae, because that's the most important, looking for asymmetry of the scapulae. So arms straight out in front, Mike, above your head, and as you can see, it seems to be fairly symmetrical, and then down again, and slowly, and out to the side again. So abduction right up to the ceiling. There's a little bit less slight asymmetry here, but it's very subtle, and down slowly, almost slightly slower. It's very slight scapular dyskinesia on the right. And now external rotation again for me, Mike. Good. And then again, very slight, slightly slower on that side, and then internal rotation for me. That's good. Excellent. Fine. That's all very good range of movement. I now want to look at your shoulders, please, as you come and stand against the wall, and I'd like you to do that for me. So I have again a look and to see the action. Go a little closer to the wall and just do that one more time, and then in you go. Yes. Again, I'm slightly suspicious. Very slight scapular dyskinesia on the right. And while we're here, actually standing up, a good test to do is to check for his core stability, which is extremely important in scapular dyskinesia. So I'm asking you, Mike, if you could, to stand on one leg and very slowly bend down, if you can, to see how you're caught, and then slowly come up again, and to do that again on the left. He's a little more wobbly, and that certainly possibly could be improved. It's a good test for core stability. Have another seat again, Mike, and I'll sit there and I'll check more functioning of his shoulder. So we've seen how his shoulder moves actively. I'm just going to move now, right shoulder myself, really just feeling for crepitus and of course for any causes of concern when I move it. I'm pulling down on the shoulder here to look for evidence of joint laxity, which there is none. I'm looking for a deepening sulcus here. And I might also, if I was concerned that he was hypermobile, might be wanting to see if it was a very lax shoulder joint, which it isn't. If I felt that he was somebody who had increased laxity of his joints, so if he was hypermobile, I could go on and do all the Bainton's testing, so that would be the thumbs back. There's no way he is there's no way you can put your thumb back, is there? Yeah. Or your fingers back. Yeah. And I know that you can't touch your hands on the floor, for example. So he is certainly not hypermobile. But that would be a range of tests that could be important to do. So I'm going to just check the power now in his joints. So if I can get you first of all just to bring your arms up like that, and I'm just going to check power of deltoids, obviously comparing one side with the other, and then flexion please of that's full, and obviously compare the other side. Extension, triceps, and then pull me towards you, brachioradialis, good. And obviously I would compare with that side. If I can ask you to spread your fingers out, can you stop me pushing them together? Good. And then cock your wrist back for me. Lovely. Good. Good. So he has full neurological functioning power-wise. And can you feel me touching you on both sides?
Yes.
Does it feel the same?
Yes.
Is there any difference?
No.
This is obviously very crude, basic power testing. Sensory testing. And one could go on and do the tendon reflexes, but there's no indication to do them in this case with normal cervical spine examination. The next thing to do is to look at special tests of the shoulder. So if I'm worried about the acromioclavicular joint, it's often fairly tender when you palpate in the shoulder, and then by pulling the arm across, gently pulling it, if there's any increased pain, or there's no pain in his acromioclavicular joint anyway, but it would be accentuated by abducting the shoulder across the front of the chest. Another test to do would be to look at the biceps tendon, a specific test. The biceps tendon is felt in the groove there, in the occipital groove, and by asking him to put his arm into the side, I'm going to ask him to supinate his arm under resistance. So if I can ask you to supinate, so turn your arm around that way, put your elbow into the side while I feel in the bicipital groove, and I'm going to try and stop you. Can you do that for me? Is there any pain there at all? No. So he doesn't have, we don't think he has anyway, but it might be painful. If pain was elicited when I did that, or it would be suggestive of biceps tendonitis or even a tear. Talking of tears, the slap tear, a slap tear, superior labral tear. The one test that one can do for that would be to ask him to put his arm up like this, and turn the thumb down and stop me pushing down. Does that hurt at all, Mike?
No.
If it did hurt, and I got him to put the thumb up and then went like this again, resisted again, and it improved, clearly that doesn't hurt either. If that improved the pain, that would be suggestive of a labral tear, a slap lesion. Another test to do would be for impingement, and a good test for that, you can do the Neers test or the Hawkins. I like to do the Hawkins test, so I do a modified one, and I ask him just to resist there. And so those are the special tests, but just to complete the other tests, really, the one must do, are checking specifically for the rotator cuff. And that was, I'm going to ask him to put his elbow into the side and relax your hands for me, and I'm going to ask you to stop me pushing your hands together. So I'm resisting, push against me, I'm resisting his external rotation there. Now that's clearly testing for infraspinatus and teres minor. Press inwards for me, that's resisting the pecs and subscapularis. If you want to just isolate subscapularis, you ask him to put his hand on his tummy and push against my hand, and that push against me, and that's isolating just subscapularis. So apart from those, we can then test, of course, as we have for supraspinatus, by putting an arm out in the scapular plane and stop me pressing down onto your arm, and he's got full power there. We've already seen the range of movement that he had with the arc and the ability he had to slowly lower the arc, suggesting that he has full control there and unlikely here to have any problems at all with the rotator cuff muscles. So really that does complete the shoulder examination. Mike's got fairly normal examination of the shoulders. I'm slightly suspicious there's a little bit of scapular disc on the right, but otherwise normal examination.